Welcome to Honestly Rated, and today we'll be talking about your favorite undead dog, Funny Bone. With Funny Bone today, we'll be taking a look at his overall design and moveset to really see how well they were able to flesh out a character that has no skin. But before we hop into the moveset, let's go over Funny Bone's lore, which is honestly quite a detailed one. So, he lived in Punch Line Island, which was the funniest place of the land of the dead, with the eternal chuckling trees that can make anybody laugh with a breeze that tickles them. And that's going to come into play later. With that, evil Count Moneybone saw that shit, and, you know, all evil people do is just think, how can I twist that into being something I can use? He wants to make a funny bomb to make everybody laugh and not be able to do shit, and he can take over the world and whatever, you know, classic villain shit. And during when they were going to go get some of those trees, Funny Bone saw it, you know, jumps right in, saves the trees, and now is part of Skylands to fucking protect everybody and his homeland. So, a pretty simple one, just quite dialogue-y. By the way, I like seeing what Skylanders you guys want to see rated next, so please just leave it down in the comments and potentially you'll get picked. And if you don't know which ones I've already done, you can go check out my playlist that's on my channel that has every single one that I've done for the past couple months I've been doing these. And if you see yourself coming back once in a while, you know, no pressure, but subscribing would help out a lot. So, thank you in advance. And let's jump into Funny Bone's whole moveset and design and see how well fleshed it could really be. Starting us off, we have Flying Bone Disc, our primary that shoots disc, and Bonesaw, a dash that is pretty cool. I like the Bonesaw. The Bonesaw is just a secondary that allows us to move forward while doing 29 to 30-ish damage, and it does it well. It doesn't go far, but it makes up in the fact that when you hit an enemy, it pushes them back. Now, it's not like a full pushback, like a heavy pushback, but it's still a pushback that is still respectable and still stops an enemy from doing their moves. So, pretty solid move there. But then we have the other side of that coin, and that is the disc. The disc is a very awkward move. It is a very heavy projectile in the sense that you cannot move nor turn while using this move. And listen, if it did a lot of damage, I would be fine with that, right? A heavy projectile doing a lot of damage, pretty slow and clunky, that would be cool. But this move actually does less than the Bonesaw, which I guess in some factor does make sense, right? The Bonesaw is like a fucking Bonesaw, a gigantic one, and then the other one's a Frisbee. But nonetheless, I definitely think this move should be doing a lot more damage comparatively to the Bonesaw, because right now I just spam Bonesaw. It's just a lot better in that sense than trying to clunkily shoot and hopefully not have like a weird situation where you throw out more even though you're not pressing the button. It's an awkward move for now, but for now, and maybe the next move can help us out a little bit. To add to our skeleton collection, we got the Bone Paws, and I promise you, these Bone Paws are going to collect so many more skeletons because this is the strongest move I think I've ever seen for a character literally getting their first upgrade. The Bone Paws is our special move that we get to learn, the last third move that we have in our trifecta, and it is insanely strong. It is doing up to 100 damage. Up to 100 damage at level 20. That is fucking insane. To give you reference, my Bone Disc are roughly doing 20-something damage. And the Bone Dash only does roughly, what, 30-ish damage? It is insane how much these things do for the literal first upgrade. The first. This isn't the third. This isn't like an upgrade to the Bone Paws. I've never got an upgrade for the Bone Paws. It is literally just base damage at max level. That is insane how much they're doing. Now, again, this is honestly rated here. We're not basing a Skylander off of how much damage it can do. But I definitely like it. I like it how it combos into everything. It's a trapped base item, and I don't really think it can go bad with trap-based things. And they don't like to leave either, so they'll stay on the whole field forever. And it actually does complement the Bone Disc pretty well, because the Bone Disc, like I said, is a very clunky move that you end up kind of getting stuck in a lot. And something nice about these Bone Paws is that they actually deflect enemies from attacking you. They're like dummies, you know? They're just kind of trapped sitting there for enemies to kind of want to hit more than you. And that's very good. The dash right now, doesn't really pair much with the dash, but, you know, the dash is more just kind of being like a go wherever the fuck you want to go type deal. So, it doesn't really matter there, but I do like the added bonus it gives to it, and it just makes the disc a little bit more valuable. But let me just say, again, that is insane. Just like 0 to 100 type deal here, where just 20-ish damage all the way up to 100. that is a lot of a difference. And we don't even have upgrades. So I'm more scared to see what the primary has for the Bone Paws, if they even do. I bet you they won't. Stepping right up to the plate after that monster is Disc Demon and Ferocious Fetch. Now, this isn't going to be as to the level as the Bone Paws, but I can promise you one thing, these are still pretty valuable moves with the Disc Demon. The reason I like this one is that it fixed a problem that I mentioned earlier, and that is that the discs don't do more damage than the Bone Saws. Now, you know, as a primary and secondary, usually the primaries are usually more damage-wise than the secondary, since you won't be using the secondary as much, but I felt like they were just a little too weak, so I'm glad they fixed that issue, and now it's doing just a couple more damage than the Bone Saws, but that's enough for me to be like, okay, fair enough. But the next thing we have here, and the reason I paired it, is another disc move where we get to hold down the move after we use the disc and do a slam. Now, if you have a little bit of mixed feelings with it, I don't think it's a bad move. What you're allowed to do with it is that it just kind of does cause like a mini explosion in the middle, pushes everything a little back, and it does 50 damage. That's not bad damage, and it actually is semi of a multi-hit. I noticed with bigger characters, you know, characters that don't move from the knockback, they can hit roughly 3 to 4 times, which is not bad. The thing that I have the most problem with is that it's not reliable in a sense. The way that it works is that you kind of have to let go before you hit an opponent. So if you hit an opponent, it doesn't like cause for the smash attack to happen. Usually it just gets rid of your frisbee, and now you're next to an opponent, even if you didn't want to be, or maybe you didn't want to do the push. So you gotta like kind of like let go a little bit early, but at the same time, there's a little bit of that game lag where it doesn't fully let go at the exact time you let go. So you gotta let go even a little earlier. So until you get like in the zone with like, okay, I have to throw it out now, then stop right there. It's a little clunky, but I got used to it. I didn't really remember much later, but it's not a bad move. I didn't think it was bad. It's just a little awkward comparatively to the next move that we get to learn as our final one in the primary path. And the move I'm referring to is Bump Up the Blades, another hold style move that allows us to hold down our Bone Saw and really wind that bitch up to just do a little bit more damage. The thing I like about it is that it allows you to just do kind of like a 10 chipping damage. So anytime, you know, there's chompies coming at you and shit like that, you can kind of just hold it and just kind of, you know, I like that. And the nice thing about it too is that if, you know, you want to be a little bit cheesy, the whole time of it is a little bit long. That is a main concern of it, but it's not so long to the point where a lot of the characters that end up trying to hit you usually can't get an attack off before it. And, you know, with the Bone Saw, it does manage to stop enemies in their attack. It still pushes them back. It's not farther reach, but it's still far. You know, that's still a bonus. It's still far. So, yeah, as a last move, pretty fine. Primary path goes, I like it. I still think I want to see a little bit more off the discs, for sure. Again, it's a little clunky. It definitely got its perks now, but it's still a little clunky. And I think everything else kind of works out pretty well. The Bone Paws didn't get any upgrades. That makes sense. I'm perfectly fine with that because that shit is still very crazy, even to the point now where we get even more upgrades for the disc and saw. And I think everything just it pairs semi-well together. I wouldn't say it pairs super well, but it does pair semi-well. So let's go into the top path that's going to deal with our saws. Alright, so we have Tail Waggler as the top path upgrade name, and we have Supercharged Saw and Bone Paw Power as the two moves we're going to look at, and these feel like a very stressed out family dynamic here. They just do not work well together, and one of these really should have gone. You know, it's like divorced parents before they get the divorce, right? Like, one of them needs to fucking go because nothing works well and it just sucks. And the reason being is because the Supercharged Bone Saw. Supercharged Bone Saw allows us to hold to 4 to 5 seconds to do a maximum Bone Saw that takes you a pretty far distance for doing roughly 45 damage. And the thing about it, though, is that, for one, I think if you just do 2 normal Bone Saws right back to back, you'll probably do more damage, and you probably won't get hit, right? 4 to 5 seconds is a good amount of time for an enemy to at least get a hit off on you if they're pretty close nearby. Maybe even if they're a little farther, and they just have a fast attack, and they're not like a Chompy or a fucking Cockroach, they're probably going to hit you. But the thing that I dislike it the most is that when you go to the next move, the Super Paw, the fucking thing that supercharges our Saw naturally, you want to know what it does? It does the exact same thing as the first upgrade, but within a matter of a second. If you just press your Bone Saw button right next to a paw, you will do 45-ish damage and go basically the same amount of speed, the same amount of distance by a magic press of a button. It doesn't make sense. I don't like it when they reuse. It just feels like a reuse move, but one is like a lot more taxing and a lot more just fucking stupid to do comparatively to the other one. So the moral of the story is that one of them should have went, one of them should have stayed. The one that should have stayed is probably the bone one, the bone paw one. Oh yeah, the bone one. I wonder which one that was gonna be. They should have been the bone paw one. I just don't like it. It does actually have a use, so let's go look at the third move, but even that use is still pretty bullshit, so let's take a look. So the move that I was speaking about is Head Case, the final move on the top path. And this one just kind of leads everything else to just kind of be more of slightly a shit show. So I don't know if it's just the fact that we're in Imaginators that I, test every single character in, but this move also doesn't feel worth it for the long run. So how it works is that if you hold down to the final max of the Bone Saw, you cannot do this with the first one, you can't do it with the second version, you have to do it with the max one, right? Maybe it's different if you never bought the first upgrade, but who doesn't buy the first upgrade before the third upgrade? I don't know, you can tell me if that's the case. But if you have every single upgrade, you have to do it with the final one. And what it does is devours. And you might be asking me, what does it mean by devour? And I tell you, I don't know what the fuck it means by devour. I sat there for like roughly 15 minutes trying to figure out what the fuck this thing does. And what it seems like to me is that it does like roughly 41 damage when it gets on contact with enemies. I don't really see it eat anything through my head. But the reason that I find this to be a pretty lackluster upgrade is, for one, Bone Saw doesn't really last that long. It lasts a good amount, but it doesn't last like a shitload to the point where you're probably going to be able to hit things with it. You gotta actually hit like the actual head of the skeleton behind you. And normally, unless there's an enemy right in front of you, like literally right in front of you, and even if you do, you are pushing it back a bit, you normally won't be able to hit that enemy with the head that's in the back. It might hit some other enemies that are just kind of like around, like kind of like whiplash them and hit them right in the face. But other than that, it doesn't really do much. Then there's also the other thing where the bone paws kind of smack the head away. they just kind of get rid of it, and it's just gone, and then it doesn't do anything. So yeah, it is a pretty lackluster upgrade. I don't like it, and like all these upgrades on the top don't really feel like they really added much to the Bone Saw in the slightest. The only one that really added was the middle one. The other two kind of get fucked around because of the middle one. Maybe the middle one should have gone, because it seems like the problem child here. But nonetheless, not great for the top path. We'll see what the bottom path deals with, and I'm guessing it's going to deal with the Frisbee, because, the Bone Paws already do fucking everything. So let's go take a look. Like I thought, we'll be dealing with discs as our bottom path, called Bone Zoner, and Flying Bone Boom and Ultimate FVB being the first two. And I definitely like these a lot more to the top path. The first one allows for our natural Frisbees to explode when they decide to die. It's still kind of confusing on when they do it, but when they do. And because of that, it actually has a lot more of a hit radius. It gives a lot more purpose to why the fuck the Frisbees are so clunky. And it just makes everything be like, alright, it's fair, I see why they're so clunky. They do a lot of damage. So, again, good upgrade. I love that. Then the second one is one that I really don't care for, but it's still good. And that is giving the Slam more of a hit radius. That's good in the fact that you don't really have to try to guess on when to, actually commit to it. Because again, if the Frisbee explodes, you don't do the Slam. That makes sense. But if you're too far, you'll miss. And honestly, the first one did have a very small hit radius. I don't think I mentioned that, but it was to the point where you really played a gamble of either missing because of input lag and all that type of shit and it not fully committing, or to the other factor that you just fucking missed because you just did it way too early. So I don't really care for that Slam, but it is a good upgrade nonetheless. Last one for the bottom path is Play Catch, and this one is honestly a very good one. I even like this more than the top one, and not just because the top one's kind of redundant because of everything else, even because I think the top one is a good bone paw thing. I think if everything else kind of fit next to it better, it would have worked really well. But this one's really fun. You get to throw your Frisbees between all the paws, and they'll just kind of slap that shit around back and forth, and I honestly think it has a very positive effect on gameplay-wise. For one, again, Frisbees, at least for me, very clunky. And I actually do enjoy just kind of throwing them more into the paws so they can just kind of launch shit back and forth, and then eventually it'll explode and probably hit something a lot more accurately than I can. Just because I'm not great with Funny Bone as much as I played with him, I'm still not too great. Then the other thing I like about it is that it honestly gave me more of an incentive to move the bone paws, because the bone paws, right, you can probably just keep them anywhere and it'll probably work out the same way. I really didn't have a reason to move them. But now I actually kind of do, because maybe I want to place my bone paws in a different place so they can start launching frisbees at a different direction or shit like that. And it made me think about it a lot more than just being like, okay, place one, and then leave them there for the whole fucking rest of the time. So, yeah, very great upgrade, very great path. I definitely think if you're going to pick up Funny Bone, go with the bottom one. Top one, it just, at least from Imaginator-wise, it's very redundant, and I just don't see a use in it slightly. But we'll talk more about that at the end. But we do have one more move, and that is the Soul Gem. If the paw is going to get crazier, here comes the Soul Gem, Healing Paws. Healing Paws is, you know what, not even a sugarcoat it, is probably one of the best healing moves I've ever seen in my Skylander career. I don't remember this being this crazy, but it is fucking insano. The way it works is that you're supposed to get close to a paw and it will pet you and you'll get healed for 50 already. 50 damage for 50 health is a good amount. That's already healing a pretty decent chunk, especially if you're playing like a normal and stuff like that. It is going to heal you a lot more than what they're hitting you for, so that's pretty good. The reason I like it the most, though, is that every single time you place down a paw, you're getting healed for that 50. That is insane. Getting healed 50 just for placing it already gives rid of the risk of, you know, getting hit while placing it, because it does take a little bit of time. Not as much as that charge from the top one, though. Again, I'll never fucking forget it. Not because of it, but yeah, it's super good. It's very well. It just makes the bone paw actually the best thing about Funny Bone. But other than that, we have one last thing to do, and that is go rate them. So I'll be back after taking a look at everything and getting back with my final diagnosis to Funny Bone. Alrighty, so after taking a look at every single bone that Funny Bone had to pick, I am ready to give you my rating on Funny Bone, honestly. And that is going to be a solid 4 out of 5. I don't think Funny Bone is a bad character at all. I definitely think he can be a fun one if you go with the bottom path. It seems like it really rounds off everything a lot better. I definitely think the disc in the beginning is pretty lackluster. And if you go with the top one, I even forgot the disc a little bit more because I was just dashing at enemies with my fucking... with the supercharged version. But speaking about the top one, it is honestly the reason why he's getting a 4. The top path is just not good in the slightest. I think the middle one has the purpose, right? I think that has that supercharged bonus where I'm like, okay, I like using it. You can go and do some shit with that. That's cool. But then the first move, again, utterly useless. It does the exact same thing as that second move, vice versa. Whatever you want to say is which one's the copy and which one's the original. Whatever you want to say, I think the second one does it better. And the first one is just a bunch of hoo-hockey that I don't want to spend 5 seconds doing. Then the last move with the Devouring Head. For one, I didn't see any Devouring, so already docking off some points there. Then the next thing is that I know it's doing damage. It's doing like 41, but just because of how long the Bone Dash lasts, and overall just kind of like how little I seem to hit with it, it's just not very much worth it. Comparatively, if you go with the bottom path, where your Frisbee Disc are doing more damage, and you get those really fun paws to kind of smack around your Frisbee Disc with, I think it's just something that you are missing out on if you go with the top path. But maybe I'm missing something there, and you can let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about Funny Bone, and maybe there's something about that top path that I wasn't seeing. So again, let me know, and if I do see it to be a lot more of a game changer, I will put something in the comments or make something. I don't know. We'll see. But from what I saw, from what I've been playing with him, pretty boring. And nothing with that top one. But everything else, pretty cool. Again, the healing factor at the Soul Gem is very cool. I can definitely see this character being a character you could probably solo Nightmare with a lot of precautions, a lot of time saving. And if you had like if Funny Bone was at the max level before you went to it, I definitely think he could have been someone you could maybe do even a deathless run with. But other than that, he just wasn't fully rounded off with that top path, in my opinion. And that's honestly rated for you today. Again, check out the playlist if you want to see more honestly rated, and leave it down in the comments who you want to see next, and potentially be on the next one that comes out next Saturday. And guess what? The Saturday after that Saturday, there's going to be another one. So yeah, leave it down. We're almost on October, and maybe I'll start picking more spookier picks, so maybe leave down some more scarier Skylanders or whatever. But other than that, thank you for watching all the way through, and I hope to see you next time. Peace.